Imagine, for a moment, standing at the threshold of two worlds, one visible, carved in flesh and stone, the other concealed, shimmering beneath layers of thought, dream, and ancient memory. It is in that liminal space between light and shadow that our true journey begins. Today, I invite you to step beyond the surface, to venture into the rich territories of your own mind, where myths awaken, symbols speak, and the deepest truths await discovery. Welcome. I am your companion on this expedition into the psyche, a guide less to teach than to illuminate pathways our own hearts have longed to tread. To enter the depths of the mind is to descend into a landscape few dare to tread. It is not a simple descent, nor a journey that can be measured by steps or miles. It is a journey inward, into chambers long forgotten, where ancient voices linger and the echoes of our unlived lives await acknowledgment. The unconscious does not reveal itself like an open book. It veils its truths in darkness, offering only fragments, dreams, symbols, sudden emotions that rise to the surface like waves from a hidden sea. Many recoil from this descent, fearing what they might encounter, and indeed, what waits below is not always comforting. There, in the half-lit caverns of the psyche, dwell figures we would rather not meet, the rejected aspects of ourselves, the impulses we deny, the truths we bury beneath the appearance of civility. Yet to ignore these depths is to live only at the surface, confined to a mask that grows more fragile with each passing year. The descent is difficult, but it is necessary, for what we call wholeness cannot be built on denial. In the hidden regions of the mind, one does not encounter only darkness. There are also treasures preserved in secrecy, waiting to be discovered. Memories that once seemed lost, creativity that had been stifled, and instincts that had been silenced. These lie in the unconscious, not as enemies, but as neglected companions longing to return. The unconscious is not merely a storehouse of forgotten material. It is a living realm, shaping and guiding us whether we are aware of it or not. To walk into it with courage is to reclaim what is rightfully ours. Dreams often serve as the first doorway. In the shifting images of the night, the unconscious offers a glimpse of its vastness. Symbols appear, some frightening, some wondrous, and each carries meaning deeper than logic can grasp. These are not idle illusions but messages, fragments of a larger design. To interpret them with patience is to listen to the voice of the hidden self. In every symbol lies the possibility of transformation, for the unconscious speaks not to confuse but to guide. The journey inward is not one of conquest, but of dialogue. We are not meant to subdue what we find, but to converse with it, to integrate it into the fabric of who we are. The unconscious does not demand domination, but acknowledgement. When we bring light into its depths, the fragments of the soul begin to gather, forming a more complete image of the human being we are meant to become. This descent is the great task of life. To turn away is to remain incomplete, bound to repeat patterns we do not understand. To accept the invitation is to enter into the mystery of the self, where both terror and beauty reside. The one who dares this journey does not emerge the same. For in facing the depths, we discover that what seemed foreign and strange was part of us all along, waiting patiently for its return to the whole. Within the hidden depths of the mind, certain figures appear again and again, not only in dreams but in myths, stories, and the unspoken patterns of our lives. They are older than any individual, older than culture itself, for they belong to the timeless fabric of the psyche. These inner presences rise before us like ancient companions, dressed in symbolic garments, carrying meanings that our reason cannot easily untangle. They are not inventions of the imagination, they are living patterns that shape the imagination itself, guiding us toward paths we did not know we were seeking. When one encounters such a figure, it often comes cloaked in mystery. Perhaps it appears as a wise old man in a dream, offering words that feel strangely familiar, or it may emerge as the maiden, embodying innocence and renewal, or as the shadowed adversary, threatening destruction, but secretly carrying the key to transformation. These figures are not external beings, but they act as though they are, carrying voices and impulses that seem beyond the reach of our conscious will. They remind us that the psyche is not a barren mechanism, but a living drama, unfolding with characters that speak to the deepest truths of existence. It is tempting to reduce these appearances to mere fantasy or imagination. Yet, when one lives with them long enough, when one observes their persistence across cultures, epochs, and individuals, it becomes clear that they belong to the very ground of human life. They are the root symbols through which the mind expresses its eternal concerns: love and death, struggle and renewal, loss and the search for wholeness. To encounter them is to stand in the presence of something at once deeply personal and profoundly universal. These inner companions are guides, though their guidance is seldom comfortable. The shadow will confront us with what we fear or despise, yet in that confrontation lies the possibility of becoming whole. The anima or animus will call forth the unlived dimensions of our soul, challenging us to expand beyond the narrow boundaries of our identity. The wise figure will bring counsel, but only when we have learned to listen with humility. Each one leads us further along the road of self-discovery, but only if we are willing to accept them not as illusions, but as bearers of meaning. In truth, we do not choose these encounters, they come to us. We may try to ignore them, dismiss them as nonsense, but they return through dreams, through impulses, through the myths that seize our imagination. And when we finally dare to engage them, we find that they reveal a direction for our lives, a sense of orientation amidst the uncertainty of existence. Thus, the archetypal figures are not distant abstractions. They are living presences shaping the way we love, struggle, create, and suffer. They remind us that our lives are woven into a greater pattern, and that within us resides not only the story of one individual, but echoes of the eternal human journey. To follow their guidance is to allow the soul to speak its own ancient language, carrying us toward the deeper realization of who we truly are. My dear fellow travelers, consider the mind not as a tidy vessel, but as a living cosmos, vast, mysterious, layered with currents unseen. At its surface we meet the persona, the mask we present to the world, but beyond that veneer lies the shadow, those aspects of ourselves we have denied or banished. To encounter the shadow is neither shameful nor frightening, it is necessary. It is the road through dark that brings us into light. Alongside the shadow dwell figures both noble and elusive, the animus or anima, those inner contrasexual presences that yearn to be acknowledged. They guide our feelings, color our relationships, and long for communion. And above all stands the self, not an ego triumphant, but a center of depth and unity toward which all strands of psyche converge. Our souls speak in the language of symbols. A dream is not a riddle begging a single solution, but a living tableau, a voice from the depths. Listen with patience. Do not rush to explain, but attend with respect, for beneath the bizarre or beautiful images lies a guiding impulse toward healing and wholeness. This quest I name individuation, the gradual coming together of scattered parts into a harmonious whole. It is neither forced nor quick, but is the way of nature itself. In courage, in sorrow, in the silent surrender to what emerges, transformation occurs. And slowly, over years or lifetimes, we become not someone defined by superficial identity, but that luminous center that both shelters and transcends. There is within every human being a silent movement, an urge that cannot be fully explained by ambition, desire, or the pursuit of worldly gain. It is the pull toward becoming what one truly is, the slow unfolding of the hidden pattern woven into the depths of the psyche. This movement is not forced upon us by society, nor is it dictated by the will of others. It arises from within, calling us toward a life that is authentic, whole, and in harmony with the deepest truth of our being. In the beginning, we live divided. We cling to the mask we wear before the world, mistaking it for the entirety of ourselves. Beneath this mask, however, lies the multiplicity of our nature, shadowed aspects, unlived potentials, forgotten memories, and inner voices that do not easily fit into the neat categories of social expectation. To ignore them is to remain fragmented, to live only a fraction of our life, yet to turn toward them, to bring them into dialogue with our conscious self, is to begin the long journey toward fulfillment. This process is never straightforward. It asks of us confrontation with what we most resist. We must face the shadow, not to destroy it, but to recognize its place in the whole. We must acknowledge the contrasexual figure within, which challenges our one-sidedness and invites us to embrace what we have rejected. We must learn to read the language of dreams and symbols, for they reveal what the conscious mind cannot grasp alone. Through such encounters, what was once fragmented begins to move toward integration, and slowly a greater pattern takes shape. To walk this path is to accept suffering as a companion. Growth does not come without conflict. The opposites within us resist reconciliation. There are moments of despair when the way forward seems lost, and moments of profound uncertainty when all that we have relied upon crumbles. Yet it is precisely in these crucibles that transformation occurs. The dissolution of the old makes room for the birth of the new. Out of tension and struggle emerges a deeper harmony, not imposed from without but discovered within. The fulfillment that arises from this process is unlike the fleeting satisfaction of external success. It is not a triumph of the ego, nor a conquest over life, but a reconciliation with it. One comes to feel aligned with the inner pattern, as though life itself were being lived through us, rather than by us. A quiet sense of meaning emerges, not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in the realization that we are becoming whole. This movement toward wholeness is never complete, for it stretches across a lifetime. Yet even a glimpse of its reality changes everything. To taste the harmony of the integrated self is to know that life has depth, purpose, and dignity beyond measure. It is to stand in quiet reverence before the mystery of existence, recognizing that the journey itself is the fulfillment. Symbols arise from the depths like quiet flames flickering in the darkness, offering glimpses of truths too vast for words. They do not speak in the direct language of logic, but in images, shapes, and feelings that stir something deep within us. A symbol never exhausts itself in a single explanation. It points beyond, toward a reality that cannot be captured by definitions. It whispers rather than shouts, suggesting rather than declaring, and in its subtlety lies its power. Dreams often bring these messengers to us: a bird that takes flight, a door that will not open, a figure clothed in shadow. Such images linger long after waking, pressing upon us with a sense of significance we cannot easily dismiss. To call them mere illusions is to silence the voice of the deeper self, for in each symbol lives a fragment of the unconscious, reaching toward the surface in the hope of dialogue with consciousness. They come not to confuse us, but to guide us, offering orientation where rational thought falls silent. A symbol differs from a sign. A sign points to something already known. A symbol opens toward the unknown. When an ancient myth speaks of the hero's descent, or a dream presents the image of water, these are not just fictions or decorative metaphors. They are expressions of forces within us, movements of the psyche seeking form. To follow their thread is to enter into the deeper current of one's life, where the personal merges with the collective and the timeless speaks through the fleeting. Symbols demand our participation. They cannot be forced into rigid interpretation without losing their vitality. To reduce them to fixed meanings is to strip them of their living essence. Instead, they must be approached with reverence, patience, and imagination. Each symbol has its own voice, and it speaks differently to each soul. What appears as terror to one may reveal itself as liberation to another. This is because the symbol does not address the intellect alone, but the totality of the human being. They often come when we are at crossroads, moments of crisis, transition, or profound uncertainty. In such times, rational strategies may falter, but a symbol arises to carry us forward. It is like a compass in the dark forest, not showing the entire map, but pointing to the next step. In attending to these whispers, we find guidance that transcends mere calculation. The unconscious does not speak in discourses, but in images, and if we learn to listen, those images reveal pathways of transformation. The task is not to conquer the symbol, but to live with it, to let it work upon us quietly over time. As it unfolds, we come to see that it was never merely an image, but a doorway, an opening through which the deeper self communicates with the conscious mind. In this way, symbols serve as bridges, linking what is hidden with what is known, allowing the soul to speak its ancient tongue, and in their gentle, persistent whisper, they guide us toward wholeness. So I leave you with this: do not shrink from the shadows within. Do not silence the whispers of your dreams. Instead, tend them like fires in the night. Let them illuminate the corridors of your soul. In due time you will find that those flickering images guide you toward your own self, not foreign, but deeply, wondrously yours. You stand now at the threshold of revelation. Step across. The secrets of your own mind await, ready to surprise, heal, and renew. Thank you for daring to look within, and for allowing your inner world to speak.